Hello everyone, welcome to Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services. It's a video on daily news and editorial analysis, which I'll be covering from the Hindu and Indian Express. The important news and editorial that will be relevant for the preparation of civil services examination will be discussed in this session. Let's get started with the news topic list. Today is 23rd of February. The first important news, that is Air Services Agreement between India and Guyana. Second, India-China hold in-person border talk. There's an escalation that is going in the Eastern Ladakh region, LAC, and there's a lot of ministerial level talk which is also there, and even the commander level talk which was not successful. Third, Dixonia fossil found in Bhimbetka is an old beehive. The second last is IMF forecast on Indian economy contributions to global growth. And the last is an editorial, India can become a biodiversity champion. Apart from the news and editorial discussion, at the end of this video, there will be MCQ based questions. These questions will be based on current affairs that will help you for the upcoming prelims examination. So without any further delay, let's get started. And before I begin this session, those of you who are new to our channel, do not forget to subscribe Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services on YouTube. If you like this video, if you find this video informative and helpful, do not forget to press a like button. Starting the session with the first news, that is Air Services Agreement, better known as ASA. So the agreement is between India and Guyana. Something important for General Studies Paper 2, that is Bilateral Regional Grouping and Agreement involving India and affecting India's interest. So the Union Cabinet, chaired by the Prime Minister of India, has recently approved the signing of ASA, that is the Air Services Agreement between India and the government of Guyana. Right? So this is the Co-operative Republic of Guyana. The agreement will enable the framework, जहाँ पे provisions की जाएगी for air services between two countries, and this air services agreement will have a lot more benefit mutually for both the countries. The service agreement was signed with many other countries for paving way for international air connectivity. Although, अगर बात करें Indian diaspora की Guyana के region में, we have a sizable presence of Indian, and the country has a large ethnic group, comprises 40% of the population as per 2012 census. Now, about the air services agreement, what is ASA and how it helps other countries when they are aligned to this agreement? So ASA covers several important aspects such as flight handling point, the number of flight operations between the countries, seat allotment, and the code share, right? So these are the part of the agreement under the ASA, that is Air Services Agreement. Now, under the agreement, no air services shall have an option for an unlimited number of flight operations. So there are certain restrictions to that within which only the functioning of the aviation can take place. Now, India has air services agreement with 109 country, and presently there is no air services agreement between India and Guinea's government. What are the advantages of this agreement? How this is going to help both countries? So the new ASA, that is the Air Services Agreement between India and Guyana, will provide enabling environment that will enhance for a seamless connectivity. So there will be a direct flight that will be connected between India and Guyana. It will also provide the commercial opportunities for the carriers of both sides. And it will provide a legal framework. The first and foremost important point, that it will provide a legal framework for air operations between the two countries, which is based on the principle of sovereignty of nations. And even it will have a reciprocity in terms of commercial opportunities for the designated airline in each side. So definitely the consumer part, the travelers part, the passengers part, the air traffic will increase. Further, India and Guyana is a signatory to Convention on International Civil Aviation, which is better known as Chicago Convention. So Chicago Convention is again important for prelims examination. If you're using this as an example in mains also, you can use in General Studies Paper 3 related questions. Now, what is Chicago Convention? The Convention on International Civil Aviation, it was signed on 7th of December 1994. And this was by 52 states, which include India. So India is actually the founding member of this convention. This can be a very possible statement in prelims examination that whether India was a founding member or India is signatory to Chicago Convention or not. Now, whenever you're writing about air safety also, you can highlight this point. The convention established by the International Civil Aviation Organization has a specialized agency which UN has charged in terms of coordination with the international air travel. So there are a set of standard procedures and SOPs which has to be followed by the signatory countries. The convention established the rule of airspace, aircraft registration, and safety, security, sustainability that will call for a detailed right of the signatory in relations to the air travel. So these are the due process of the convention that has to be followed by either parties. The convention also contains the provisions pertaining to the taxation part. Moving to the other news, India and China hold in-person border talk after COVID, and even the relations between India and China was not cordial because of the escalation ongoing in the eastern Ladakh region. Finally, there's an in-person meeting, and this particular news is important for General Studies paper 2 under the subtopic of General Studies, that is India and its neighborhood relations. So recently, the working mechanism for the consultation and coordinations between India-China border affair was held in Beijing in China, right? So India had made a representation in this particular meeting. And during the meeting, both sides has discussed the proposal for disengagement in the remaining border areas. There has been escalations in the line of actual control in the eastern Ladakh region and some part of the northeastern state. Not recently reported, but there have been some cases. Now, in the 26th meeting of the WMCC, that is the Working Mechanism for Consultation and Coordination of India-China Border Affair, the first 14th meeting was held in July 2019, and this one is the latest one to be held in-person meeting. Now, review of the situation along the LAC. अगर बात करें line of actual control की, both India and China have reviewed the situation along the line of actual control in the western sector of India-China border and discussed the proposal for disengagement in the remaining area with an open and constructive manner. There have been several rounds of commander level talk which was not successful, and India was not proactively looking forward with a talk until and unless there's something progressive working out. The efforts would restore the peace and tranquility in the region of LAC that will create a restoration for normalcy in the bilateral relations between India and China. The two sides have agreed to continue discussion on military and diplomatic channels. So once things are put in place, the pace is there between the relationship between India and China. Further, the part of discussion on military and diplomatic channel will also proceed. Now about the WMCC, the Working Mechanism for the Consultation and Coordination of India and China Border Affair, was established way back in 2012. And this is an institutional mechanism for the consultation and coordination between the maintenance of peace and tranquility in the border areas. And it exchanged the views on strengthening the communications and coordinations, including the border security personnel of the two sides. Now, moving to the other news, Dicksonia fossil found in Bhimbetka is an old beehive. This is what the latest observation has been made by the scientists, the observers. Something important for General Studies paper 1 under the subtopic, that is Indian culture, that will cover the salient form of art form, literature, architecture from ancient to modern times. So in the year 2021, the discovery of rare 550 million old fossil Dicksonia, a primitive marine animal, was reported from Bhimbetka rock shelter near Bhopal in Madhya Pradesh, right? And Dicksonia fossil is an important part of the world that has indicated a circular or oval shape, somewhat flat, or a ribbed structure radiating from a central column. I'll show you an image that will give you more clarity about this fossil. But just to tell you, Dicksonia is news for the last year also and this time also. So you can expect a direct question coming out for the prelims examination. Now about Dictionia, it's an extinct primitive animal that inhabited seabed around today's Australia, China, Russia, Ukraine और Etruscan period की जो region है 600 to 500 million है, ये regions पहले ऑस्ट्रेलिया, चाइना और ये सारे region को combine करके हुआ करती थी. I'll show you an image. After that, we'll have a discussion on this part. So this is what the Dictionia images that was released from Bhimbetka, right? And this is the magnifying image of this. This is how it actually looked like. Now coming to the discussion part. It was classified as an animal after the discovery of cholesterol molecule in the fossils, and it is believed to be one of the earliest animals that have existed on Earth, right? And this was around the time that the Paleo landmass called Gondwana was thought to have assembled, right? So this has a lot of geomorphological evidences that is coming out with this. At the time, India, Australia, South America, Africa and Antarctica has created together a single landmass. And about this, the Dictionia fossil is not reported elsewhere in anywhere across the globe. इसके अलावे कहीं भी ये रिपोर्ट नहीं की गई है. Now about Bhimbetka cave, which is again a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The Bhimbetka rock shelter is an archaeological site and foothills of Vindhyas mountain in the central India in the state of Madhya Pradesh in the district of Bhopal. Now it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, consists of 7 hills, over 750 rock shelters. So these are some of the images, the official images from the Madhya Pradesh tourism. And the caves span for the prehistoric, Paleolithic and Mesolithic period that were for historic period. This exhibit the earlier traces of human life in India and evidence of the Stone Ages. So the rock painting, the famous rock painting from the Bhimbetka is always important. You must have read this in the class 11th NCERT. So UPSC, to a larger extent, in alternate years, every time ask question with regards to this Bhimbetka and other part. So make sure you are thorough with the concept and you know each and every bit pieces with regards to the Bhimbetka. Now the other news, IMF forecast on Indian economy contribute to the global growth, something important for General Studies paper 3 under the subtopic of General Studies, that is Indian economy and issues related to planning, mobilization, resource growth and development. So according to the International Monetary Fund, the IMF managing director has recently in a statement has said that India continues to remain a bright spot in the world economy and it will also contribute close to 15% of the global growth in 2023. This anticipation is again something motivation for Indian economy where the global economy is witnessing a recession. Talking about the larger economic like US Fed, which has recently, where the US Fed has taken decision on the part of inflation. There are other countries which are, in the part of China also they are not handling it well. तो इंडिया में इस तरह की प्रोजेक्शन इस टाइम पे 15% ग्लोबल ग्रोथ के लिए बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट न्यूज़ है. The fastest growth among the major economies, the performance of Indian economy has been quite impressive in the recent time. Now, a certain high growth, 6.8% of this particular year was reported. Even the economic survey and the budget has anticipated for close to 6 to 6.5% of the growth rate. Now, India is a bright spot. Definitely, this is what the IMF projection is. India can be a bright spot, and when the IMF has projected for 2023 with a global forecast soloing at 3.4% last year to 2.9%. Even after the post-pandemic, the recoveries are there. Even in Indian economy, we have seen recovery. The global economy is also recovering. But to a larger extent, India has a potential compared to many other countries. India has done well in digitalization part and quite moving well as a major economic, overcoming the impact of pandemic and creating a lot more job and growth opportunities. Now, India's fiscal policy has been responsive to the economic conditions. Now, meanwhile, we have seen that the RBI's Monetary Policy Committee, which is known as MPC, has come up with the regular interventions where the repo rate and other part of the interest rate, the monetary instrument was taken care by the Reserve Bank of India. Now, capital investment की अगर बात करें, capital investment is being increased steadily for 3 years in a row of 33% to 10 lakh crore rupees. And the capital spending has increased with an amount of 3.3% on a gross domestic product, which will be biggest a sum jump which increased to 37% between 2021 and 2022. So this is on the part of capital investment. I'm not getting deep down into the part of capital expenditures, capital expenses, revenue expenditure. We have already made a discussion, right? So if you want to check out, do check it out. We have made videos, and even for the economic survey and budget survey, you can get the part. Now, talking about the outpacking of the global growth, this is what the projection according to the IMF, and these are the year-wise growth. This is for India, 6.8% for financial year 2023. For 24, it is 6.1, and for world, it is 3.4, and it is 2.9. So comparatively, you can see India is double the point of growth. It is in terms of growth rate, the percentage, it is double to the global level. Now, moving to the editorial of the day, India can become a biodiversity champion, something important for General Studies paper 3 under the subtopic of General Studies, that is the conservation, environmental pollutions, degradation and EI. So what is the relevance of this editorial? First, talking about the theme of this editorial, the editorial talks about India's role in biodiversity sustainability and what are the important issues that we'll be looking into the discussion part. This will include the programs and potential. There are a lot of programs which Government of India has recently envisaged in the budget. The proposal, the budget, when the budget was presented by the Union Finance Minister, there were a lot of emphasis that was put in the environment sector. We'll see India's effort. The second is the important scheme called National Mission on Biodiversity and Human Being. And the last part will be concluding that how local community involvement is pivotal in terms of the biodiversity sustainability. Now, biodiversity की अगर बात करें, ये एक बहुत ही essential component है, and this is a essential process where life of Earth and all human beings are being supported that support all form of Earth, including the humans. So the sustainability of environment is very important to a larger extent. The importance of plant biodiversity was strongly articulated at United Nations Biodiversity Conference in Montreal in Canada. Right? And in December 2022, 188 countries representative had adopted halt the reserve biodiversity loss by conserving 30% of the world land and 30% of the world ocean by 2030, which is known as a 30-30 pledge. Very important. If you're writing something in mains paper, make sure to incorporate this as an example, right? So 30-30 pledge, which call first that 30% of the world lands conservation and call for 30% of the world ocean, right? So we have to, on this part, we'll see India commitment also. So India currently what 17% of the planet human populations and 17% of the global area biodiversity hotspot, placing it at the helm of guide to planet becoming the biodiversity champion. So India effort in this regard will be very crucial and very important in terms where the part of the international forum where India has already made a commitment. So this also obliges India to ensure that the part of the commitment is well made. Now programs with potentials की अगर बात करें, in this time Union budget has advocated for green growth, right? जो इस बार की budget लाई गई है उसमें सप्तऋषि की बात की गई है. There are 7 priority which is there, and among them the one priority called for the green growth. The emphasis are there on the green growth, which is vital for the biological wealth of the country, and even not for India, specifically globally, it will help to reduce the natural asset such as soil, land, water and biodiversity. Now, sustainable biodiversity की बात करें तो गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट पॉलिसीज और इनिशिएटिव्स लिए हैं which include the National Mission on Green India, which aims to increase the forest cover on degraded land and existing forest land. Right? So the mission will call for increasing the green cover, and even to a larger extent, the focus is there from the state government also to increase the forest cover. Now, the second is Green Credit Program. The objective of this program is to incentivize the environment sustainability and responsive actions by the companies and individual at local bodies also. So local bodies participation will be again important. Now there's MISTI scheme. The MISTI stand for Mangrove Initiative for Shoreline Habitats and Tangible Incomes, Particularly significant because an extraordinary importance of mangroves and coastal ecosystem is there in mitigating the climate changes. Now, the Prime Minister Program for Restoration Awareness, Nourishment, Ameliorations and the Mother Earth, called as PM-PRANAM. This aims to reduce the synergies of synthetic fertilizers and pesticides is critical for sustaining of our agriculture. So Government of India has even incentivized for organic farming. तो यहाँ पे गवर्नमेंट की कोशिश है कि जो सिंथेटिक फार्मिंग है उसकी यूजेस को पूरी तरह से रिड्यूस किया जा सके. Now there's another important scheme called Amrit Dharohar scheme that is recently mentioned in the Indian biological wealth that is expected to encourage the optimal use of wetlands, enhance the biodiversity, जो कार्बन स्टॉक्स हैं इको टूरिज्म को प्रमोट करेगी and even call for generation for the local communities. So under the scheme, if it implemented with the letter and spirit, the Amrit Dharohar will have emphasis on the sustainability by competing the demand, benefiting the aquatic biodiversity and the ecosystem services. So there's a lot of part of economic involvement which is also there. So if tourism is on a larger extent is there, so this will call for a part of the employment generations and contributing to the state and the central economy also. Now, National Mission on Biodiversity and Human Wellbeing. The National Mission on Biodiversity and Human Wellbeing is already approved by the PMSTIC, that is the Prime Minister Technology and Innovation Advisory Council, with immediate launched. Government is looking forward to immediately launched it. और इस मिशंस के अंदर कुछ इंटरडिसिप्लिनरी नॉलेज रखे गए हैं दैट इंक्लूड द ग्रीनिंग इंडिया एंड इट्स इकोनॉमी, टू रिस्टोर एंड enrich natural capital and well-being of the people. And the mission has been visualized as an incentive for the people with components involving like scientific institutions, government agencies जो हैं, NGOs will be again an important part in this, and the part this will include at national level, state level and local level. So there's a more or less a bottom-up approach is there. First there will be the local bodies at the district level, then the state level and at the national level. So this is how the National Mission on Biodiversity and Human Wellbeing will actually work out. Now there's need for science and evidence-based implementation. For any program to be successful, the monitoring and implementation part is very crucial. So the science-based inclusive monitoring program is critical not only for the success of the recent government efforts, which we have discussed, but also the digitalization of the lesson that is run for the replications nationally at the global level also. The new mission programs would effectively use modern concept जहाँ पे sustainability, valuations, ecological, sociological aspect, even biological wealth पे इस तरह के aspects पे ध्यान दी जा सकती है ताकि इसकी potentials को और ज़्यादा explore किया जा सके. Now, as a Green India mission that is concerned, implementation should be on focusing the restoration rather than the tree plantation. So restoration for the ecological part is again very important. Planting is a different domain. Again, the ecological restoration call for a lot more effort that should also be given impetus and priority as per the individual level and also by the government level. Now, the local community involvement is very important. Until and unless we have a local involvement, the awareness is not there. The program and policy by the government will be nullified. The success rate will be at the lowest, right? So community involvement किसी भी programs and policy में बहुत ही important है, चाहे वो government की कोई social schemes हो, environment related schemes हो, and even beat any initiative that is there for the government of India. So the success for sustainable environment policy call for involvement for local and nomadic communities. This is a mandatory requirement, right? And traditional knowledge and particular of this community should be integrated to implement the plans. Now, recently we have seen, to give an example, right? So, Adi Mahotsav abhi government recently organized किया, where Prime Minister has said that the traditional knowledge for the tribal people should be used for the sustainability of environment. तो इस तरह के जो स्टेटमेंट प्राइम मिनिस्टर या फिर प्रेसिडेंट की तरफ से आते हैं आप उनसे डायरेक्ट कोट कर सकते हैं एसी के पेपर में एंड इवन फॉर द जनरल स्टडीज पेपर. सो दिस इज हाउ द लोकल नॉलेज, द इंडिजिनस नॉलेज कैन एक्चुअली हेल्प in the sustainability of the environment. Now, each program should include a significant educational and research funding that is critically to appraise and bringing awareness to the Indian biological wealth. So this is how you can conclude the editorial part. And you have to also include the part of the initiative that is already taken by the government of India and the progress that has been made. So कुछ इस तरह के examples के साथ आप अपने answers को conclude कर पाएंगे. Now, moving ahead with the MCQ questions of the day, before I proceed, just to tell you the answers of yesterday questions. For the first question, the correct option is A. For second question, the correct option is B. Today's MCQ for practice, that is with reference to over the counter trading, consider the following statement. It take place bilaterally where the counterproductive have a direct relationship with each other. It consists of a network of a buyer and seller. Brokers act as intermediaries in trading. So you have to check for the correct option, which among the following is correct one. Second question of the day, that is India Semiconductor Mission. It is a limited administrative financial power. It has an advisory consists of leading global expert. So there are other options which is there, and this type of mission is again very important, right? India Semiconductor Missions. So do practice a lot more questions that will help you and even give you an edge over the examination. Practicing a lot more questions give the conceptual clarity and specific knowledge about the topic. So this was all about for the discussion on today's news and editorial analysis, followed by the MCQ questions. If you have any other concern, you can reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to assist you. For time being, I'm signing off. Thank you so much for watching this video.